Morning, friends. It's finally good to see you back here. We had a few weeks online where we had some pre-recorded message, some stuff from the past, but here we are again, and I'm glad to be back with you. And I just wanted to share this passage with you and just a couple thoughts on it to hopefully inspire you for your week ahead. It's just Psalm 100, and it says, "Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord is God. It is he that has made us, and we are his. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him. Bless his name. For the Lord is good. His steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations." May God add a blessing to the reading, to the hearing, and the living of his holy word. Thanks be to God. Now, honestly, friends, when I growing up, going to church was a pretty normal part of our life. It was just something Mom and Dad kind of made us do. You got dressed up, you went to church, and then you went to dinner or something like that right after. But as we know, church going is not as popular, I suppose, as it used to be. More specifically, going to worship or taking time to be in worship every week is not as popular as it used to be. Statistics show that even amongst regular churchgoers, going to church just twice a month is what is considered regular church attendance in today's day and age. And some folks lament that, and some folks say, well, you don't have to be in church or to worship to be a good person. And so I had been doing a lot of thinking about why it is that we worship. And I want to start, before getting into that, to say this, that worship is simply only a part of the Christian life. And oftentimes we think that worship is church. And we even say that, right? I'm going to church. But church is an encompassment of the assembly of all the people of God that do more than just worship, and that we believe in worshiping and acts of mercy and gathering in Christian community. But worship is just a part of the Christian life. But I do want to spend the next couple of weeks talking a little bit about why we worship, the benefits it has for us, and the perspective perhaps worship can put on our lives to make us more loving people that are growing closer to God and our neighbors. And the text that I just read to you in Psalm 100 is a great example of the way worship should produce, first, a spirit of gratitude within us. Because oftentimes I can wake up my day as if I'm starting in neutral. I don't know if you've ever felt like that, but especially if the rain's out, or it's really humid out, or it's a Monday and I'm not looking forward to what I have for work that day. It can just be sort of my neutral, my default to get up out of bed and start thinking about all of the things I have to do, or all the things I'm laden with, or all of the things that I just simply don't want to do that day, and start my day as if I'm not made by God. If God hasn't given me breath, or if God hasn't given me blessings in my life or relationships that make and enrich my life to make it better. And instead, when I come to worship, it is first an opportunity to simply, as Psalm 100 says, to come to the Lord with gladness in his presence with singing, and enter his gates with thanksgiving. And then I make a lot of noises in my life, a lot of grumbling noises, complaining noises. But I often wonder if the only thing that Christians were known for in this world is coming in and making joyful noises instead of those grumbling ones all the time. I wonder what the outside world would think of these people named Christians, who come into the Lord's gates with thanksgiving and praise, and on their lips are things that they are thankful for. So worship, I feel, when I come, and I at least do that once a week, or maybe other times in the week, then we'll talk about that in a minute, other ways we can enter the Lord's gates with worship. When I do that, I find it produces, or should produce, a spirit of gratitude in me. Maybe even here on this online service, Chris Daisy has just played some music, or is about to play some music that had you contemplate about the beautiful things in this world or your life. Maybe even these words right now, hopefully, are giving you a chance to recount the things that you are grateful for. One of the things my mother makes all of my kids do when we have family dinner night on Wednesday nights is, what was the best thing that happened to you today, and what was the worst thing that happened to you today? And my oldest always grumbles about even having to do that exercise. But John Wesley believed that all of his pastors should pray a similar prayer. It's called the Ignatian prayer of examine. That we should ask in our lives, what was the thing where today that I received the grace of God, and where today that I not experienced the grace of God? But in even listing those things, it allows me to put my life into perspective about all the things God has done for me. And it lets me choose to see this world with a glass half full, or at least a little more than half full. Another thing I think worship does for us when we come into God's gates or we watch here online is that maybe sometime during our week life didn't go the way that we thought that it would. Maybe something really bad happened in our life. We lost a job, we lost a loved one. And the troubles and clouds of this world make it seem like the light will never come. I have found, at least in my life, when I have chosen to at least attempt to worship, and friends, to be honest, even go through the motions. There were many times when I was deployed in Afghanistan where my platoon sergeant set up a small church in a bunker, and it might just be me and him or a few other soldiers who were literally just going through the motions amidst perhaps what are some of the hardest times of my life, but even going through those motions, it was me saying that I am not going to let my troubles of this life let me despair. And that when I come into God's gates with thanksgiving, I refuse to let the troubles of my life pull me into despair. And that I will start to use what Habakkuk calls some nevertheless kind of worship. And that even though the olive tree does not bud and the fruit crop does not yield forth fruit, nevertheless, I will still praise God even in the most difficult times of my life. In other words, it helps me transcend the things that I'm struggling with in that time. But I have to be intentional about it. It's something that I have to force myself to do. Many times, as I said, I'm a person that likes to start my day in neutral, but as Dallas Willard says, sometimes I need to wake up and smell the roses, but sometimes I just need to wake up and find one. Because maybe that week I didn't find any. Entering worship, either online or here in person, gives me the opportunity to not let my troubles pull me into despair. And friends, the last reason we worship, or one of the last reasons I want to talk about that we worship this morning that comes from our text, is that we get to recognize that God has been faithful to us no matter what. And no matter what, there is a community of people around us who care about us, who love us, and that God's faithfulness still endures in this world. And I would argue that there's probably no other time throughout your week or in your life where you gather with strangers to either sing, to confess, to pray, to listen to a word of inspiration. There's probably no other time in your week where you are intentionally driving yourself to these kinds of things, and that most of our life is driven by what we have to do, either our work or our job or the things we have to do for our kids in school and everything else. But taking some time out of our week and our life to recognize God's faithfulness is important for our lives and enriching for our lives, and I find draws me closer to my neighbors and to God. Even if the worship service wasn't that good or if the sermon wasn't that good, I still made an intentional decision to wake up, to do something, to turn my mind toward and my heart towards the Son, to receive the light and love that Jesus Christ has given me throughout that week. It makes me stop and pause. So to summarize, folks, in the weeks ahead, I want to talk specifically about some of the weird things, or perhaps some of the things that we do as United Methodists to worship that we hope that helps you do that. Things like a prayer of confession, praying prayers of the people and praying for one another, why that's important. Why is it important that we gather together and even sing or make a joyful noise to the Lord, even if we're not all such great singers? What does it mean to sing with people, sometimes even the ancient words or the new words and things like that? And so I want to talk about some of the ways that at least we worship here at Crossroads and how we hope that that enriches your life. But this morning, I just wanted to give you an overview that I hope that in coming to worship, that you experience some kind of gratitude for what God has done for your life, and that you can enter His gates with thanksgiving, even here online. And that making that intentional decision, your troubles don't pull you into despair. And that you recognize God's faithfulness in your life, and that you're drawn closer to Him and with one another. And so in the coming weeks, I hope that this series pushes you to those things, or maybe inspires you to come down here in person or continue to join us online, either one. But in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, I hope you come with all of those things, and in His name, go in peace and have a wonderful week.